my friends. Welcome to the basement of the metal shop. And I know, weird, it's summertime and working on a guitar. Usually that's not not what I do in my summer months. Anyway, what are we doing? So I was recently contacted by a guy out of the UK on Reverb who saw the sale of my Fast Eddie Clarke replica, and he asked if I could build him one. And I was like, at first, of course, you're suspect, you're dubious, and you're like, yeah, this guy's just a tire kicker. He's not really interested in, buying a guitar, just dreaming, whatever. So I say, yeah, sure, I can do it. But he messages me right back, and we get to talking a little bit, and I hit him with a number, and not a huge number, but the price of everything as far as building a Fast Eddie Clarke replica have gone up. The brass pick guard, Dragonfire pickups, blah 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 blah. It's all gone up quite a bit. So I hit him with a larger number, which is going to compensate me for my time. Not great. I'm probably making 10 or 11 bucks an hour or something like that when we get done. Anyway, but the guy's all in and immediately PayPal's me the 50% deposit that I asked for. So yeah, we're going to build another Fast Eddie Clarke replica. This is a real Fender body. I think it's a made in Mexico. It had a rosewood neck on it that we're not going to be able to use, small headstock rosewood neck. It said Fender on it, not Squire. Judging from the price point, that I'm guessing that this is a made in Mexico product. Anyway, so the last one we did, we sanded down a Sunburst body. That turned out very well. Of course, a Sunburst has to use relatively decent wood, so I'm concerned about the black, that if we have really mismatched pieces when we get to sanding here, then we're sunk, and I'm going to have to purchase an unfinished body. But anyway, I'm going to attack this thing with some power tools here. Very, very thick, heavy paint on this, and get a couple of nasty dings here on the back. You can see just how really thick this paint is. So I have some pretty aggressive grits here on the belt sander and the vibratory sander, and I'm not concerned about that because we're just going to be doing the the bulk removal here of the paint, and that's going to be the first step. Of course, Eddie's had a very nice lacquer finish that chipped off. He said it must have failed. It must have been subjected to some heat or some humidity and so on. And his finish, he said, chipped off. He said he would have friends, come and they'd play guitar or whatever, and he'd have friends chip off his finish. This one's pretty bad. Had some duct tape on here. There's some sort of adhesive up here. Again, a couple bad dings in the back. So not really sure what we're going to find, but I'm going to give you a nice time lapse of me attacking this thing with the power tools. So let's go. Well, I apologize for the air conditioner noise, but it is blazingly hot outside. Not even 80, but the humidity is, it's deadly here. Anyway, so that was ridiculously hard. That finish wears like iron, and what you're looking at here, just to accomplish this on the face of the guitar, took me darn near an hour and a half. And you'll see that we mostly used, here, that pick guard. We mostly used the Dremel multi-tool. And that's only because the belt sander was ridiculous. I don't have paper for it. It was just going to fling the guitar body. And the nice vibratory sander, I was woefully underprepared with sandpaper. So that's on me. But anyway, I had some 40 grit and 60 grit for the Dremel, and it's kind of nice. It's a little bit more precise. It takes forever. I am going to have to get some sandpaper before I tackle this wide expanse of the back. And you can see those are just from where I hit it with the belt sander, and that's just not going to cut it. So anyway, we will Get that with the vibratory sander, this big sea of black here in the back and the belly cut. And then I'm going to have to use the Dremel anyway for the edges. And this is all to save a little bit of money because I had this guitar already on hand. And I had the pick guard in place because I don't know if you recall this, my very faithful viewers will remember when I made the first Eddie Clarke Stratocaster, I did not sand enough up here. And it was very late in the process before I realized that I had a bunch of the sunburst finish showing up in through here. So I had to go back and sand it and then oil it, and it was kind of a tinted oil, and it never quite matched. And I was, not that it mattered, a very relic-y type of guitar, but I learned from my mistakes, so this time I grabbed a crappy old pick guard just to make sure that I've got everything sanded off. And I'm not sanding off anything that I don't have to. And realistically, that's about it. I mean, I probably sanded a little more than I needed to, but the rest of the guitar, it's all got to go. So, yeah, the time lapse, I kind of cut that short because I was really having a tough time kind of flailing around there. But yeah, you can rejoin me when I actually acquire some sandpaper, and hopefully when you do rejoin me, this body will be completely sanded. All right, so we had a little change of venue since yesterday when my workbench was this tote and a dehumidifier and a piece of cardboard on top of it. I got sick of just having no good work surface down here. I used to use this kid's desk with like a tabletop air hockey thing on top of it. I don't know if you guys remember when I was building the Street Beasts Cobra seats down here in the wintertime. That was my workbench. I've had enough. Nice Bose stereo and an old school iPod there. So anyway, so I had this perfectly good workbench just sitting around the corner. Problem being no good light, no power. Oh, so I just decided to move it over here. And my electrician, the guy who built this house, was so stingy. So the outlet for the hot water heater, one position outlet. So I strung a circuit breaker, a circuit bar there, whatever, a power strip, surge strip there. Over here, I guess, that makes sense. There's just one outlet in the switch. But over for the well pump, there was a single socket outlet, so when they put in the water filtration, they had to change that to a double. There is a double over on the panel, but I digress. Cheap prick, anyway. So yeah, but I wanted to work over here where I've got natural light and close to my fans for ventilation. So got this old kid's foam alphabet numbers thing. It's actually pretty nice. Got some old junky tools. I got a lot of workstations at this house. I got the guitar workshop. Got a nice setup out in the garage. Got this. I got a good junk drawer in the kitchen. I'm pretty well outfitted. So this is where we left off yesterday. I got a little bit more done just with a sander. Told you I was woefully unprepared with sandpaper. Went to the hardware store. Got a bunch of sandpaper. That'll work for the vibratory sander, and I got belts for the belt sander. That was my stepfather's belt sander. Pretty sure the belt that was on there was one of his, and he passed away in 2003. So, but anyway, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try some paint stripper. This is like a gel type of a paste that I can paint on and see how that goes. I'll give you guys a time lapse on how that works. Oh yeah, I got a sock tied to my vise here because when you open the door, it's right on the glass. Anyway, so yeah, let's get that going on. I'll do the time lapse and we'll paint some premium paint stripper on and see what happens. What could go wrong? Famous last words. Alright, so you just watched a 15-minute time lapse, hoping to see some bubbling paint, and instead looks like we got a big fat nothing. Doesn't look to me like, oh, it doesn't really look like it's touching it to me. So I'm going to give it another coat, and it's hard to tell if anything's coming off or if that's just the actual product itself that's being scraped. The finish is extremely tough. You know, polyurethane, whatever these modern finishes are. When I was sanding it, it's like once you got through the clear, you were good. Then the black just turned to chalk and very quickly. But that clear coat, tough as nails. So more than likely, it was a valiant effort. It was a good try, but I mean, it's not even touching it. I mean, maybe. Only thing I can hope for is that maybe, just maybe, it'll make it easier once it comes time to sand. That it will loosen up the paint enough so that it'll sand off a little easier. Anyway, I'm going to give it another coat. I'm going to let it sit on there for a good long while and tack it again with the power tools. So that wraps up the sanding. You saw in the time lapse, I really did most of it with a large vibrating sander. The Dremel wasn't cutting it. That with a good coarse grit, I think I was using a 60, really did the number on it. I did have to go after the cutaways here with a Dremel and a sanding disc, and that, let me tell you what, that made short work of it. It did leave some furrows in there. But if you've ever seen close-ups of Eddie's guitar, he talks about having chipped off the finish, but it was very uneven. It was very blotchy. If you looked at the actual photographs on the sides, it kind of looked like, I don't know how I would describe it, like a Palomino horse or a cow, a spotted cow. And so you can see here where I've sanded through the sealer in spots, not intentionally, as you know, I try to keep it all nice and even, like on the face and on the back, but it actually mimics the look of his, and we've removed some material here, kind of provides a little bit of a nicer, more graceful cutaway. So a lot of handwork, but if you want it to look right, you want it to look like a nice relic guitar that the finish has been chipped off of, worn off of, and again, we need to fine-tune this a little bit. This is all going to get oiled with True Oil. I have tinted True Oil, my own special design that I used last time when we made the Fast Eddie Clarke Replica Strat. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed, not necessarily part two, but the do-over of the series. As always, my friends, I appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. Thanks for giving me the view. Please hit me up in the comments. Still respond on my comments. You want one? Maybe I'll get better at it and go into production of making these things. Please give me a like and consider subscribing. Lots of great content on my channel, in my opinion. All right, my friends? All right. Ace of Spades. Yeah, Fast Eddie.